I enjoyed it, but it's, you know, not gonna win a Nobel Prize. Hey, what's up you guys? It's Avery and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who have never been here before, what's up? I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to welcome you into the fold. I'm excited about today's video because I'm going to be doing a tier ranking of popular books from BookTok. So I've never done a tier ranking video before and I've always wanted to. So I'm just very excited to do this. I'm not sure if doing this video makes me a poser because I actually don't have TikTok. So I am exposing myself, but I do stay up to date with the popular books on Instagram, which I feel like all come from BookTok. Instagram Reels and BookTok are like very similar. So I feel like I still have an awareness of what is poppin'. So some of these books are going to be books that are more recently popular on BookTok. Some are going to be ones that were popular last year. It's just a variety. So there's quite a few on here that I've read and I was excited to see be super popular on BookTok right now. And there's also quite a few that I haven't read, which are not going to be included in this video. But let me know if there's a book on here that I missed that's super popular on BookTok that you think I should read. Okay, before we begin, I'm going to talk about my different tiers and why I made them what they are. So first we have God tier, which is just books that are out of this world and are my absolute favorite. Love, love, loved them. Then we have Love to See It. So this is a book that I still really enjoyed, but I just kind of, you know, I love it, but it's not necessarily God tier. Then in the middle, we have Average or Average. I know that's bad. Let's just move past it. But these are going to be books that weren't bad, weren't good. They were like, for me. Then we have Hate to See It. These are books that I just didn't like. And then lastly, we have No! Which I think is self-explanatory. Those are my tiers. They kind of correspond with like the star ratings that you can do, 1 to 5 stars. I don't know. But let's get started. So the first book that we have on here is City of Bones, which I was excited to see is making a comeback and getting popular again because I loved this series as a kid. I probably read them in middle school for the first time and I was just like obsessed. I remember walking around carrying this book in school and having to hide the cover because there's a whole shirtless man on the cover and I was in middle school and I was like, I cannot have these people seeing me read this book. So I'm gonna put this into Love to See It. I love this series. I've pretty much loved everything Cassandra Clare has ever done ever. This series is problematic. We just really have to kind of look past the slight incest, but it's fine. We're just looking past that, okay? You see it right over here? Nope. Blinders. Next up, we have The Book Thief, and I loved this book. I read this also probably in like middle school, and I remember just thinking it was so good. It was kind of really one of the first books that was like dealing with hard topics that I read and just made me cry, and it's a great, great book. I haven't read it in a long time. I need to reread it because it's so good. So this one's also going into Love to See It because I love to see it. Next up we have Six of Crows. So I read this book a few years ago, this duology, and I was obsessed. I was hooked. I actually read this series before I read the Shadow and Bone series, and I remember being a little confused because I was like, what is going on? What is a Grisha? But I've actually figured it out and really, really loved it, really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna put this into God tier. I love this book. I love a heist. Son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in!
Next up we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Also very excited to see that this one has gotten popular on BookTok. I loved this book with such a passion, okay? It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me other things. Those are the two main things. And a book that makes me laugh and a book that makes me cry is like my jam. I love feeling the whole spectrum of emotions. I loved this book so much. I thought it was so heartwarming. All right, we're gonna put this one also into God tier. So far we've had a pretty positive experience. That's exciting. That might change in a little bit, but we'll get there when we get there. Next up we have All the Bright Places, which it's been a while since I read this one. I remember really liking it when I was a teenager, but I also feel like I liked it because I just thought it was like deep, and I was like, wow, like I just remember thinking it was so emotional, and that automatically made it good. And so it's hard for me to place where this should go. So I think it's just gonna go into average because I think it's good, but I also am not obsessed. Next up we have Shadow and Bone. So I read the series because I wanted to read it before the TV show came out last year. Read the entire series in like a few days. In hindsight, I didn't read the whole series because I was obsessed with it. They're just pretty short books, pretty easy to get through. I just feel like it's not as good as Six of Crows. I liked the Darkling and Elena. I really hated Mal for most of the book series, and then near the end I was like, okay, fine, I'll relent, he's okay. I was just rooting for the Darkling to just be more than what he was, and I think it just really disappointed me when he didn't turn out to be any more complex than what he was. So I liked the series, I enjoyed it, putting it in average. I think I like the TV show more. I mean Ben Barnes, so that's all there is to say about that. Next up we have Shatter Me, also one that I read in my, middle school angsty period of my life. I loved this trilogy when it first came out. I know there have been a bunch of books released since the first 3, because it was originally like a trilogy and you could end it there, but then she's released more, which I have not read, probably will not read. I was really obsessed with the Shatter Me series. I really liked how she had those words written that were crossed out and then rewritten. That was something cool that I'd never seen before and still haven't really seen anyone else do that. I liked the enemies to lovers arc and seeing Warner's character evolve and learning more about him. So I'm gonna give this a love to see it because I just have very fond memories. I'm sure if I went back and read it now, I'd be like, whoa, this is cringe, but I have fond memories. Next up, we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I've talked about this book on my channel before. It's going into the no for me. I thought this was the most predictable book I've ever read in my life, and I hate that. I hate predictability. I mean, what's the point of reading a book if you know exactly how it's going to end? And about a third of the way into this book, I just knew what was going to happen. And it's a shame because I think the concept is really interesting, but it just was boring throughout. Watching her skip through all these different lives and you just like deep down know she's not going to stay in any of them. That's not a spoiler for the end, but that's what I was feeling. She doesn't stay in most of them. I'm like, okay, well I know she's not going to stay, so I'm just reading about this, waiting for her to realize when I've already realized. So it was just a no for me. I read it, I felt no sort of satisfaction at the end. I just was like, all right. So I feel strongly that this book is not worth it. Next up we have A Court of Roses. Nope. Next up we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. This is the only Sarah J Maas book I've ever read. I know that Homegirl is popular. I haven't read Throne of Glass. I know that series is really popular. Maybe I will one day. I don't know. I read the first book and I liked it, but I also had no desire to finish the series, which I think says a lot. And I have seen so many videos about the most recent book that came out, A Court of Silver Flames, is that what it's called? About how absolutely trash it is, but also I know people love it, but it's just like romance, like smut. And that is not what I like to read. This is going into hate to see it, I think. I think when I read the book, I would have put it into average. I definitely wouldn't have said that I loved it, but now looking back with my, older eyes, I think that this is not something that I would enjoy reading again. I'm sorry I said it. Let me know if you like Sarah J Maas books, if you feel like the Throne of Glass series is something that I would enjoy more than this. let me know. But I feel like compared to what we're about to talk about next, it just doesn't compare. That being said, let's talk about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I've talked about this book so many times on my channel. I did a reading vlog when I read it, and I've talked about the second and third book in my January and March wrap-ups. So I just finished the series last month, and I love this series. I love it. It is automatic god tier. I'll never shut up about how well balanced the characters and the plot and the romance all is. It doesn't focus on just the romance. It doesn't focus on just the characters, just the plot. It's like a perfect balance where Jude is very well-rounded. You're rooting for her. You want her to be a badass, but you also want her to have a romance, and everything just works out perfectly. There's lots of fun twists. You don't know what's gonna happen. Really good. Really, really good. So this, in my opinion, is a superior fairy fantasy book than A Court of Thorns and Roses. But like I said, I might not be giving it a fair shot, so just let me know. Next up, we have The Love Hypothesis. I've also talked about this book a few times on my channel. I recently did a video where I recommended it to my roommate, and we got her opinions on it. This is literally just fan fiction in novel form, so it's going into average because it's just good for what it is, you know? Like, I enjoyed reading it. I also thought it was kind of dumb, but that's how fan fiction is. And so I enjoyed it, but it's, you know, not gonna win a Nobel Prize. Next up, we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of those books that was really circulating when like dark academia was like the vibe. And I read it and I liked it. I wasn't obsessed with it either. It wasn't like Six of Crows, let's say. So I think for me, this just goes into average. I remember being interested in it, but I also thought parts of it were slow. I would say for these average books, they're all just good. Like, would I recommend them to someone fervently? No. But if someone said, hey, should I read this? I'd be like, yeah, it was good. So that's where I'm at with those. Next up, we have two contemporary romances. The first one is The Unhoneymooners, which has been pretty popular on BookTok. And I really enjoyed this book. I know that I've talked about a recent dislike of contemporary romances, which I still stand behind, but this is one that I really liked. I thought it was really interesting seeing their relationship develop and how like this one entire miscommunication led them to hate each other, which is kind of ridiculous. We love enemies to lovers. I'm also throwing this one into average, no qualms about it. Next up, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I didn't like this. Sorry. I was just kind of bored by it. I thought it was very predictable. A lot of angst for no reason. I feel like a lot more could have been done with the writing plot, and that just was kind of on the back burner. It had the potential, but it just didn't follow through. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but it's just true. So I'm going to put this into hate to see it. The way to describe the hate to see it category is like, I don't hate it with a passion, but like I hate to see it. Like I do hate to see that happen, but I don't hate it. Does that make any sense? Probably not, but that's the way I feel. Next up, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Wait, that was my French accent. Was that so good or what?
Bonjour, bonjour. It's called a ballet.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, it was the first book that I read this year, and I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put this one into love to see it. Really cool concept. There were parts of it that I thought were maybe a little too long or unnecessary, but I really loved her relationship with, what is his name? Luke. Luke is his name. I really loved their relationship. I was like here for it. I think I've talked about this in a video, but I was like more here for their relationship than I was for her and Henry. I didn't really give a crap about Henry, I'll be real. But I loved their relationship. It was super intriguing, super interesting. So this is definitely a love to see it. And lastly, we have The Song of Achilles, which unfortunately I might have to have a hot take for. This one is just average for me. My mom recommended this to me, and normally she's like on point with book recommendations. We really get each other's taste a lot, but for some reason this one just did not awaken something in me like I know it did in many other people. I think Greek mythology is not my genre. I know a lot of people just loved like the descriptions and the setting of this book and like the beautiful writing. I did feel the feelings about the two's relationship and loved the two's relationship, but like, I don't know, the plot was lacking for me. So it's going into average. This is another one where if someone was like, should I read this? I'd be like, yeah, it was good. But I also understand why a lot of people loved it. Okay, this is my final tier ranking. As we can see, we have a lot of average, and then a few that I disliked, and then a good amount that I love. I think I stand behind everything that I've said. My God tier looks good. Six of Crows, House in the Cerulean Sea, Cruel Prince, love it. City of Bones, Book Thief, Shatter Me, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, love them. And then my average ones are just books that were good. And then Beach Read, Court of Thorns and Roses, hate to see it. Don't hate it, hate to see it. There's a difference. And lastly, The Midnight Library, no. No. Thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know what you thought about it. If you wholeheartedly agree with something that I've said, let's hash it out. Let's hash it out in the comments. I'm not afraid to hear your opinions, okay? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.